Right now, 4 pieces of American dirt are worth more than most companies on the stock exchange. One of them sold for $725 million, and the family that owned it for 160 years fought like wildcats to never let it happen. Stick around, 'cause the man who ended up with it just became the biggest landowner in America. And that ain't even the strangest part of the story. Howdy, friend. Name's Jed, 68 years old. Been working cattle in Texas since before most folks' daddies were born. See that old branding iron there on the rail? Been in my family longer than I have. Every ranch in this story lives and dies by a piece of iron, just like it, a brand. Tonight I'm going to tell you about the 4 most legendary brands in America. The running W, the 4 sixes, the 3 backward Ds of the Wagoner, and a Nebraska outfit marked with an ace of spades, whose founder died in a jail cell for the crime of building a fence. Pour yourself something warm. This one's got oil, blood, Hollywood money, and a lesson your banker will never teach you. Every empire in this story started the same way, with land nobody wanted. In 1853, a riverboat captain named Richard King rode through South Texas and saw something the so-called smart money didn't. Everybody called that country the Wild Horse Desert. No rivers to speak of, bandits on both sides of the border, heat that'd melt a horseshoe. Land was selling for pennies an acre, 'cause folks figured you couldn't run cattle where there wasn't water. King figured different. He bought a Spanish land grant on Santa Gertrudis Creek, one of the only reliable water sources for 100 miles. And friend, write this down, 'cause it's the first lesson. He didn't buy acres. He bought water. Everything else was just decoration. Today, the King Ranch runs about 825,000 acres. That's bigger than the entire state of Rhode Island. They bred the first American cattle breed ever recognized, the Santa Gertrudis, that deep cherry-red animal you see behind me, by crossing Brahman toughness with shorthorn beef. Took 'em decades of failed crosses to get it right. And here's your first setback, 'cause no ranch story is a straight line. In the 1930s, the King Ranch was nearly broke. Drought, debt, and cattle prices in the dirt during the Depression. The family was staring down the barrel of losing everything. What saved them? They signed one of the biggest oil and gas leases in history with Humble Oil, what became Exxon. The royalty money didn't just pay the debts. It funded the ranch for the next 90 years. Lesson number 2. The land under your cattle can be worth more than the cattle. Every great ranch in America survived because it had a second income the neighbors couldn't see. Now hold on. Before I tell you about the ranch, a Hollywood man bought for $320 million. If an old rancher's stories are worth your time, tap that subscribe button. It's free, it don't hurt, and it tells me somebody out there still cares how this country was really built. All right, where was I? 1870. A 19-year-old named Samuel Burke Burnett buys 100 head of Longhorns, and the brand comes with them, 6666, 4 sixes. Now the legend says Burke won the ranch in a poker game holding 4 sixes. Pretty story. The family's denied it for 100 years, and the brand simply came with that first herd. But notice something. They never worked too hard to kill the legend. A good story puts a premium on your brand, and the Burnetts understood marketing before the word existed. In the late 1880s, a drought hit West Texas, so bad that ranchers went broke by the hundreds and cattle died by the thousands. Burnett survived because he'd done something the proud men wouldn't. He leased grass from the Comanche and Kiowa nations, around 6.5 cents an acre, and moved his herds onto lightly grazed ground, swallowed his pride, saved his cattle. Lesson 3. In a drought, the man who moves first eats. The man who waits on rain sells out. Then in 1921, drillers hit oil on the ranch's Dixon Creek country up in the Panhandle. That first well flowed crude for 50 years. Same pattern as the King Ranch. Grass on top, fortune underneath. But the Six's real crown jewel walks on 4 legs. In 1982, Burke's great-granddaughter, Anne Marion, hired a veterinarian named Doc Blodgett and turned the horse program from pasture breeding to artificial insemination, laboratory-grade genetics on a working ranch decades before it was common. The Sixes stood legends like Dash for Cash. To this day, when a cowboy anywhere in America wants the best ranch horse money can buy, he looks for Six's blood. Then came the twist nobody saw coming. Anne Marion passed in 2020, the last of the line. After 150 years in one family, the ranch went up for sale. And the buyer? Taylor Sheridan, the man who writes the cowboy shows. Yellowstone, Landman. He led a group that closed the deal in 2022, reported at around $320 million for some 266,000 acres. Twice the size of Chicago. City folks laughed. A screenwriter playing cowboy. But look closer. Sheridan grew up ranching. He runs real cattle and real quarter horses out there with about 20 full-time cowboys. He films his shows on the property, so the ranch earns Hollywood money and cattle money off the same dirt. And just this year, 2026, the Sixes signed a partnership with Honda to equip the whole outfit with ATVs and side-by-sides. Lesson 4. The modern ranch doesn't just sell beef. It sells the story of itself. That's a 100-year-old trick. Remember the poker legend? Running on streaming television now. 1849. A 21-year-old named Dan Wagoner starts with 6 horses and about 242 longhorns. His boy, W.T., grows up saying he wants to run the most cattle, breed the best horses, and work harder than anyone. And Lord, did they. The Wagoner Ranch grew to 520,000 acres across 6 counties, the largest ranch in America inside one continuous fence, bigger than Los Angeles and New York City put together. 1,000 oil wells, 30,000 acres of cropland, 500 quarter horses, including Poco Bueno, one of the greatest sires the breed ever knew. But here's where I want you to lean in, because this is the setback that kills more family ranches than drought and market crashes combined. The family itself. W.T. Wagoner saw it coming. Back in 1923, he locked the whole ranch into a trust, trying to force his heirs to hold it together after he was gone. Worked for a couple generations. Then the branches of the family fell into more than 20 years of lawsuits. Some wanted to sell, some wanted to keep it. Nobody could agree on anything. In 2014, a district judge finally ordered the whole thing sold to end the litigation. 165 years of family legacy, ended not by weather, not by wolves, not by the market, by a courtroom. Lesson 5, and underline it twice. An estate plan your heirs don't agree on is just a slow-motion auction. The fence around your ranch matters less than the paperwork inside your desk. The buyer in February of 2016 was Stan Kroenke, the billionaire who owns the L.A. Rams and Arsenal Football Club over in England. Asking price, $725 million. And say what you will about billionaires buying up ranch country. And I'll say some of it myself in a minute. Kroenke kept the ranch whole, kept the employees, and put serious money into brush management across more than 150,000 acres to bring back native grass and quail country. There's even a major wind farm on the place now. Grass, oil, beef, wind, and wildlife. 5 incomes, 1 fence. And here's the kicker. Fresh as this morning's coffee. This past December, Krenka bought another 937,000 acres in New Mexico, the biggest single land purchase in over a decade. And as of 2026, he is the #1 private landowner in the United States, around 2.7 million acres. The Wagoner was just his crown jewel. Now let's ride north, out of Texas, to the strangest chapter of the night, the Nebraska Sandhills. 20,000 square miles of grass-covered sand dunes that early cattlemen swore was worthless desert. They learned otherwise by accident. In 1879, a blizzard scattered cattle from the Newman Ranch into those hills. When cowboys rode in come spring to gather them, they found the lost cattle, fat. Fatter than the ones they'd been feeding all winter. Turns out that desert sat on top of the Ogallala Aquifer, sub-irrigated meadows, and some of the finest natural cattle grass on this continent. Same lesson as Richard King, 30 years later and 1,000 miles north. The land everybody despises usually just hasn't been read right yet. In 1888, a young cattleman named Bartlett Richards founded the Spade Ranch there, named for a brand shaped like the ace of spades. He built it into one of the biggest ranching enterprises in America. Wells, windmills, telephone lines strung across the dunes, an entire company town at Ellsworth with a free hotel for his cowboys. But Richards had a problem the Texans didn't. Most of his range was federal land. Homestead law said a family could claim 160 acres, a number dreamed up by politicians back east for farm country with rain. In the Sand Hills, 160 acres won't feed 20 cows. The law didn't fit the land. So Richards did what nearly every big cattleman out there did. He fenced government range he didn't own and controlled homestead claims through his cowboys. Then Theodore Roosevelt decided to make an example. Richards and his partner were prosecuted for illegal fencing and land fraud. And in 1911, Bartlett Richards, the man who proved the Sandhills could feed a nation, died in a jail cell in Hastings, Nebraska, before his wife's train could reach him. His empire collapsed. But here's the part that gets me every time. A ranch hand's family, the Bixbys, spent the next decades quietly buying back the scattered pieces of the old spade, starting with the hay meadows, the most productive ground. The spade runs cattle to this day under Bixby hands, and that Ace of Spades brand still gets hot every spring. Lesson 6. Empires built against the law of the land don't outlive their builders. But good grass, honest work, and patience, that outlives everybody. Now maybe you're watching this from a 30th floor apartment, and you're wondering what any of this has to do with you. Friend, every hamburger you ever ate, every pair of boots, every leather seat, and every truck traces back to outfits like these. And there's a bigger question hiding in this story. In one generation, ranches held by families for a century have passed to a Hollywood writer and the richest landowner in America. Some folks say that's the death of the family ranch. Others say it's the only way these places survive whole, instead of getting chopped into 40-acre ranchettes. I've got neighbors on both sides of that argument. And truth be told, they're both a little bit right. I'll let you chew on that one in the comments. So there's your 4 brands. The Running W, built on water nobody else saw. The 4 Sixes, built on grass, oil, horses, and a legend they never bothered to deny. The Wagoner D's, the biggest fence in America, undone by paperwork. And the Spade, proof that the brand can outlive the man, even when the man dies in a cell. This old iron here. It never branded 100,000 head, never sat on an oil field. But when I press it into a hide, It says the same thing those famous ones say. Somebody claims this. Somebody's responsible for this. Somebody ain't quittin'. That's all a brand ever was, and that's worth more than $725 million, 'cause it's the one thing money can't actually buy. It has to be kept. If this story earned it, you know where the buttons are. Subscribe, thumb up, and tell me in the comments, if you had King Ranch money, would you buy land, or would you keep your freedom? There's no wrong answer on this porch. And come back next time, 'cause I'm going to tell you about something happening right now that would have made old Burke Burnett fall off his horse. Ranches where the cowboys are robots, tractors with no drivers, and machines that can look at 10,000 weeds a minute and kill 'em one by one without a drop of chemical touching your food. The next land rush ain't for grass, friend. It's for silicon. I'll leave the porch light on.